कभी खराब हो जाता।
Ready?
Yeah. Ready. We are on live.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah, today we have our backlight, inshallah. Today, Zoraiz Hashmi will speak. Alhamdulillah, please welcome on stage, Zoraiz Hashmi. There you go.
Assalamu alaikum, guys. Thank you so much for the introduction. Today I'm going to be talking about not necessarily something that's like a religious topic, but a really important scientific topic that relates to like our lives and our religion, and that is climate change. So I'm going to be talking about a lot of stuff, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me.
I can't hear it.
Oh, Mike.
Take some speaker. Yeah.
Yeah, just speak up. I'll for you.
Yeah, I can write this one. Can you read? Alright, that's better. I don't do this. Alright. Bro, no.
I gotta keep. You have to go here.
Huh? It's fine. Am I putting this on? Can we restart?
Yeah.
Can we restart this off?
That's okay.
Alright, whatever. Just crop it off from the YouTube.
Okay.
So I'm gonna, like I said, I will be talking about climate change, and if you have, this is gonna be a really important topic. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. So I'm gonna start off with, what is climate change? So climate change is when greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide enter the atmosphere, and with this rapid increase of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, this causes the climates to change. Greenhouse gases exist in the atmosphere to trap energy in the sun so that it makes the earth warm enough to live in. However, too much greenhouse gases can cause the earth to overheat, and as well as causing extreme weather such as storms, hurricanes, wildfires, etc. So what causes climate change? What causes these greenhouse gases to spread to the atmosphere in the first place? Well, there are two ways that it happens, natural and humans, and I'm going to be talking about how it's done by humans. So the burning of gas and coal for fuel, for example, when we burn gas for cars, when we burn fuels for factories, or even for generating electricity, as well as burning waste when we trash stuff and we throw it away, like it doesn't, like it gets burnt. This generates carbon dioxide, which gets spread to the atmosphere. Deforestation, which is when trees and forests get cut down to build cities and towns. This also costs CO2 to start going into the atmosphere more. And you're wondering how? Well, plants take in CO2, and because of that, the main consumer for CO2 starts to decrease, which causes CO2 to increase and go into the atmosphere more. And so I'm going to be talking about why this is an issue. Well, like I said, climate change causes the earth to overheat, causes the overheating of earth, as well as temperatures to rise, as well as extreme measures. Like I said, climate change could cause natural disasters such as floods, wildfires, hurricanes, and droughts to worsen in areas they affect. Like, for example, what we saw in like California a while back, the whole wildfire thing, a big factor in that was climate change. Also, not only that, but the extra carbon dioxide that we put in the air acidifies oceans, making it impure for animals and corals. And like animals such as that live in the ocean die out. And that's harmful because many people that live off of those animals to eat, they lose their food source in a sense. Climate change also both heats up the oceans and melts ice caps. And think of oceans, what I mean by heating up oceans, think of a thermometer. You know when it gets hot, the thermometer starts to rise, the mercury starts to rise. Same with the oceans. Ocean levels start to rise when the heat gets, when oceans get hotter. And ice caps also melt, which adds more water to the oceans, making sea levels higher, which makes islands get sunk underwater. So as we all know, climate change affects the world. like the entire world, but I did specifically for this presentation too. I did 2 countries to research, which I feel like is important to people in this country. Number 1 is Pakistan, because a lot of people are from Pakistan, and another is Saudi Arabia. So to start off with Saudi Arabia, it's affecting really badly, and according to a study carried out by 5 scientists, temperatures are expected to rise around 3 to 5 degrees Celsius, which is 37 to 41 degrees in Fahrenheit. And the increases in temperature are going to take a hit on the agriculture, which means that planting, farming are going to get hurt. And I'll explain why. Number 1, the droughts caused by climate change. They won't get enough water so that their plants and their cattle won't be able to be fed because of the low amounts of water. And number 2, they'll also lose water. If this trend continues, by 2050, the Nile River will receive a runoff of 50%, which means that water will exit the Nile River, will be lost, 50% of it will be gone. And however, even with these evidences, the government of Saudi Arabia refuses to accept that climate change is a reality. And as I mentioned before, climate change also affects Pakistan, and this is through many examples. For example, the massive heat waves that were affecting the country a few years ago. Like, for example, temperatures in cities were reaching up to 122 or 128 degrees Fahrenheit, which is roughly 50 to 54 degrees Celsius. And these heat waves killed 12,000 people, and 65,000 people required treatment. And temperatures are also raising heavily in Pakistan as well. The nationwide average is 0.58 degrees Celsius, which is around 33 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is a pretty big issue. And now I'm going to tie this to us being Muslims. We are supposed to take care of the earth, as said in Surah Al-Baqarah in Ayah 60, where Allah says, "And do not commit abuse on the earth, spreading corruption." And in Surah 28, Ayah 77, "And indeed, do not desire corruption in the land, for indeed Allah does not like corruptions." So there are ways for us to fight climate change. There are many ways for it. For example, number 1 would be to conserve energy, which means that if we trash less, that would mean less need for trash to be burned. We should use alternatives such as recycle your plastic bottles, recycle your paper, etc. Use less electricity and resources. A lot of us, we waste electricity, and electricity, in order to be generated, mostly it uses fuel to burn in order to obtain the electricity. So more fuel will put more carbon dioxide in the air, so we need to make sure that we use less electricity, and as well as considering to switch to renewable forms of energy, such as solar energy, wind energy, water energy. Those are different types of energy alternatives that are much better for the environment. And also, we should use our rights as citizens, so we should protest, try to push the government to accept the fact that climate change is a reality, because the current administration in office denies that it is a thing, and that is very dangerous for us. We should try to vote for politicians and laws that push for energy conservation, as well as fight climate change, and avoid politicians who deny climate change and who deny laws that try to fight for conserving energy and fighting against climate change. And inshallah, if everything goes right, and we can drive towards a path and hopefully preserve and save our planet. Thank you. Any questions?
Anybody has a questions? You can ask questions. Yeah, that's a good idea.
No, I don't have a question. Okay, so.
Okay, what do you suggest the Muslim community? We do a lot of waste, We don't care about, we throw trash, we drink water bottles. In Ramadan we see hundreds and hundreds of bottles every day. People are drinking and making it trash. So what should be the alternative for that?
Well, for starters, I think that the best way to eliminate using trash is to recycle more. So in a sense, a lot of times we'll throw a water bottle in the trash can or something, or a can in the trash can when it could be recycled, and that could save a lot. Water bottle, things such as water bottles, paper, wooden objects, cans, stuff like that could be recycled, and it's important to make sure that we recycle it in the proper way.
I have an idea. During Ramadan, instead of having water bottles, we don't have water bottles. We tell people to bring it from home. That will help reduce trash.
That's a good idea.
bring your own water bottle, you mean?
Bring your own water.
Good
Want
luck.
water? Bring your own.
Well, hey,
And then they have like that.
What we could do is we could have more like water stations. You
Yeah.
know, the cups also could waste a lot of
No cups.
like those cups on the thing. If we trash it, we can recycle them.
What do you think? We printed IIT's nice bottle, we sell it, and it will be permanent. People just
That's actually
fill
good.
the water.
That's a good idea.
Like what's it called? Reusable water.
Yeah,
Right?
reusable.
Water bottles, yeah.
We could design a bottle which can be reused all the time, and they can keep as a souvenir, and then bring Manta Ramadan. Everybody has their bottle.
so we
Put
you
their
can
name.
engrave IIT on it.
Islamic. It should be Islamic Institute printed.
Yeah, IIT, whatever. Yeah, we could do that.
Slash one.
Inshallah, we'll think about that.
But the cultural notice. Normally, when you ask or offer somebody to breakfast, you want to offer them water.
Wait, what?
You want to offer them water to break their fast.
Yeah. No, that's not what I mean. I'm like not during
You're
like
saying
during
bring your
Tarawih.
own bottle.
During Tarawih.
Yeah, during Sarawi.
Not iftar or dinner. Like during
Well,
Tarawih.
most the bottles they use in iftar, right?
You know what I do? You see the small ones? And there's a little bit, you just mix them back up, close the bottle, put it back.
Well, training is one thing, but like that cultural thing is like
Yeah.
why people actually offer water.
Do you guys have any other questions, maybe about climate change, why it's important?
Okay, so firstly, how does rain happen?
Uh-huh.
What is
Rain happen? So rain happens when, through the water cycle. Okay, of course through a lot. But, like through the water cycle. Like, there's like a river, there's like water. It evaporates, it goes into the air. And it doesn't just like exit. It gets formed into a cloud. And then, rain falls. But with climate change and the way that the atmosphere works, rain could go, for example, instead of moderation, like this city, like for example, city A gets X amount of rain, city B gets Y amount of rain, right? And if climate change affects the cities, it could do something where like city X gets 100% of the rain and city Y gets 0%, which means that one has floods, which can damage the city, like as we saw in Hurricane Harvey and many Hurricane Irma, like floods damage the city, stuff like that happens, loss of property, loss of value. And cities like citywide, like for example, here in LA, we had that huge drought like a couple of years ago that affected the city. We lose water. So that's one thing that climate change will affect. It will give people, instead of moderating the amount of, precipitation that people get, some people will get too much, some people will get too little. And that stuff will happen.
That's good. Good job.
Alright,